Hello! I have just come back from the library and Draco has also just come in the room. Draco, you gonna say hi? Oh. Here he is. Hello! Come to do my video with me. That's nice. So unimpressed. He doesn't really like cuddles. But, you know, I feed him, so it's only fair that he gives me cuddles in return. Anyway, I've just come back from the library. I got 6 books and I thought I would show you. I've done a bit of a U-turn on my TBR pile. If you follow me on Instagram, you'll know that I normally set myself like a TBR basket every month. And there's normally like between 6 and 10 books on there, and obviously I try and read them every month and normally fail to read all of them. But a couple of days ago it sort of occurred to me that I think because Bitter, which I have right here actually, is on my TBR this month, it's just made me realise I don't read many middle grade books, and the middle grade books I have read I really enjoy. I find that middle grade books can be really quite like thought-provoking, because a lot of them are trying to like convey a message, because obviously the young audience that they're trying to get to read the book, they want to, you know, have a meaningful impact on them and convey a message or a moral. So I do often find them to be really, really thought-provoking. So I do want to read more. And I don't really own that many, with the exception of these two, which I've never actually read, and I've owned these like over a decade. So I'm going to try and read those. But yeah, and then I thought the library would be a good place to see if they had some more that I could read, and they came through, luckily. So yeah, I will show you what I got now. So first off, 2 non-middle grade books. I got Small Pleasures by Claire Chambers, which I've heard loads of really good things about. I can't remember what it's about, but I think it's like a slow burn, character driven, maybe historical fiction, yeah, 1957. And I know it involves like a journalist, and it's, yeah, like I said, hopefully a bit of a slow burn, character driven novel, which is my cup of tea. So yeah, I've been wanting to get a copy of that, but I thought, as I saw it in the library, I will read it from there. And then I also got a copy of Ali Smith's Spring, seeing as we're kind of on the cusp of summer but still in spring at the moment. I've obviously seen all 4 of these around a lot. I've never actually wanted to buy them, so I thought the library would be a good place to kind of dabble and see if I do like them, and if I do really enjoy this, then I could go get other copies of the other 3 seasons. But yeah, they're really stunning, and I thought I would give it a go. So on to the middle grade books. I have 4. So first up is the 3rd one in the Unfortunate Events series. Obviously I think there are 12 or 13 in total. I have seen the film, as I'm sure most people have, and I think I might have seen like 1 episode of the TV series. But I know the vague general idea, and I know that the film was originally, I think, the first 2 books, or maybe even the first 3 actually. But yeah, I'm going to reread them, or read them. I'm sure I will be familiar with the story, and then as I move on to 4, 5, 6, 7 blah blah blah, then I probably will be less familiar with the storyline. But yeah, hopefully these will be good. I think they're kind of books that a lot of people have a lot of nostalgia for if they did read them as a child, but yeah, I think they'd be good to get into. So fingers crossed I enjoy them. Then we have Sophie Cameron's Out of the Blue. It sounded a little bit fantasy, but then I kind of liked where the plot was going. So when angels start falling from the sky, it seems like the world is ending, smashing down to earth at extraordinary speeds. Wings bent, faces contorted, not a single one has survived. As the world goes wild for angels, Jaya's father uproots the family to Edinburgh, intent on catching one alive, but Jaya can't stand his obsession, and still reeling from her mother's recent death and the sudden disappearance of her ex-girlfriend, she's determined to stay out of it. Then something incredible happens, an angel lands right at Jaya's feet, and it's alive. Dunno, I was intrigued. I want to know what the angels are, where they've come from, whether she manages to talk to one. So yeah, that was all that was, and it's really pretty cover, which is always helpful. Yeah, so looking forward to that. Then we have The Weight of Water by Sarah Crossan. She had a few of them in the library, but I decided to get this one because it intrigued me that it was written in, it's either verse or poetry. I think it's verse, to be honest, but I imagine it'll be a pretty quick read. But I've not really read many books in verse. I think the only 2 that come to mind are Clap When You Land by Elizabeth Acevedo and Black Flamingo. Is that in verse? I can't even remember. I think it might be. But yeah, I really haven't read many at all, so I thought this would be a good opportunity to read another one. So I will just read you the blurb. Armed with a suitcase and an old laundry bag, Kasienka and her mother head for England. Life is lonely for Kasienka. At home, her mother's heart is breaking. At school, friends are scarce. But when someone special swims into her life, Kasienka learns that there might be more than one way for her to stay afloat. I kind of like all the swimming analogies. I'm intrigued. Where's the water coming from? Obviously, it's called The Weight of Water. And yeah, the fact it's written in verse as well intrigues me. So fingers crossed I like that. And finally we have the Apple Tart of Hope. This author did have a few in the library, and to be honest they all sounded really great, but I thought I would pick this one up because the last line of this blurb just really sold it to me. So it's not an ordinary apple tart, it's magic. It's the apple tart of hope. After you've taken a bite, the whole world will look almost completely different. Things will start to change, and by the time you've had a whole slice, you'll realise that everything is going to be okay. Oh, sounds emotional. But yeah, again, really cute, and I think it just reaffirms that idea that I do think middle grade books are really good at like sending the right messages, at exuding this message of like hope and instilling in the reader that there are ways to get through the obstacles that appear in your way throughout life, and I really like that. So yeah, looking forward to all of them. Obviously because they're middle grade, hopefully they'll be quite quick, so we'll be able to read them all before they're due. I do have 3 weeks to read them, so hopefully I'll be able to get through them all. Obviously these two are mine, but hopefully yeah, I'll be able to get through all of them. I'm going to prioritise the middle grade ones rather than the other two, but hopefully I do get to those as well. And obviously I'm just going to completely disregard my actual TBR at this point, which is probably not very good, but well, here we are. I like being impulsive, and yeah. So I will keep you updated when I have read some and let you know what I think, and take you along my middle grade May, which I enjoy the alliteration of. And if you have any middle grade recommendations, then let me know, because I do want to read more. Like I said, I will definitely be reading Bitter this month as well, along with all of the other ones I got from the library and the 2 other from the Lemony Snicket series. Yeah, so yay for middle grade. Hello, I've just come in from the garden. We actually have some sunshine here, which is lovely. So I've been reading out there, and I have just finished The Weight of Water. This was the first one that I've chosen from the library selection that I got out. And yeah, it was really good. Like I said in the little intro, I haven't read many books written in verse. So it was definitely different to the books I normally read, and I really enjoyed it. I think whenever I pick up a book that's written in verse, I always worry, am I going to be able to follow it along? But obviously because this is middle grade, and actually that worry is kind of irrational, because obviously it's going to make sense, especially if it's like, you know, mainstream modern writing. It's not like Shakespeare or anything like that. So yeah, it was very easy to follow along, and I understood everything, and it was really good. The protagonist is a young girl who is, I mean, it's over the course of a few years, but between the ages of like 12 and I think she must be 14 by the end, or maybe 13. And her and her mum moved from Poland to England looking for her father, who moved there a couple of years previous and kind of abandoned them. So they come to England to try and find him, and when they get here they aren't living in the greatest conditions. They are sharing a bed, and she is enrolled in school but 2 years younger than she should be, because the teachers believe that she won't be able to keep up with kids her own age. So obviously there's a lot of struggles with English and trying to fit in with the rest of the kids in the school, who aren't very nice to her because she doesn't have a phone and she doesn't wear the newest clothes, and obviously English isn't her first language either. So it's about her struggling to fit in, and also her coping with her mother trying to find her father and knowing that her father probably doesn't want to be found. So yeah, there was a lot of different dynamics going on, a lot of real I think conversation starters, and like I again said in my intro, I think middle grade books are so great for that. They bring up kind of difficult conversations that a lot of kids actually have to deal with. So as like an immigrant experience story, this was really fantastic, and I really loved the writing. It was beautiful. It was a really fast read. I probably read it in about 45 minutes. So if you're looking for something quick, then yeah, I would recommend this one, and I will definitely be reading more from this author. And yeah, it's just made me want to read more verse as well, because it really was quite beautiful. So yeah, hope you guys can pick up that one too, and I will start something new. I think I might start my foray into these. Yeah, but I'll keep you posted. Hello everyone, it's a couple of days later now, so I thought I would give you a quick update on the other books I have read. So yesterday I managed to read all 3 of these, which was surprising because I was hoping to get through 1, maybe 2, but yeah, all 3 of them was great. Now, like I said in the intro, going in to these, I'd seen the film, so I knew the storyline vaguely. Obviously, it doesn't include everything, but I knew vaguely what happened. And then apart from that, I didn't really have any idea. I'm not sure whether I read these as a kid, but if I did, I don't remember them at all. So if you haven't seen the film or the TV show or don't know what these books are about, basically within the first 10 pages of the first book, 3 children, Violet, Klaus and Sunny, are orphaned because their house burns down in a fire and kills their parents. And the books, I'm not sure about the rest of the series, but at least numbers 1 to 3 are essentially their guardian, Mr. Poe, who's a banker, trying to find them new relatives to live with. In their parents' will, it says that they want them to live with a relative, but they don't really have any close relatives, so they end up living with their sister's second cousin's husband. You know, something along those lines. Very tenuous, and it means that there's all these people that they've never met before who they end up living with. In the first book, they live with a guy called Count Olaf, who only wants their fortune. Their parents were quite rich, but because they're all children, they don't have access to the money yet. And throughout the rest of the books, they get sent to different relatives, but Count Olaf is still in the background trying to find a way to get access to the money. So yeah, they're really fun, like very adventurous, lots of clever things in them. Violet's really good at inventing. Klaus is, he reads a lot, and Sunny, who's a baby, bites. That's her trait, her character trait. And I have to admit, I really enjoyed them. Obviously they are like children's books, middle grade books, so they are very fast and they are a bit on the nose sometimes. Obviously the storylines are a little bit far-fetched, you know, the fact that Count Olaf has these various disguises and no one except the children can work out who he is. It felt a bit like a pantomime, you know, like he's behind you kind of thing. But yeah, they're children's books, so I can't really criticise it for that. And overall they were really fun, and 2 things in particular I really enjoyed. One was the way that the author always tried to make sure he was being responsible with his writing. So there's a moment where Violet pulls apart like an electrical socket, and there's this really long passage where the author is like, never ever 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 ever, and literally a page of evers, pull apart an electrical socket, because obviously children read things and it influences them, and I'm sure he would hate to think, and so would his publisher, that a child would ever go ahead and do something like that based on these books. So yeah, that was really nice. And also the way that he used it as an educational tool to teach the readers new words as well. So whenever a word came up that was maybe a little bit difficult, a little bit long, or maybe just one that he thinks it's unlikely the child might have come across before, maybe it's some kind of idiom or phrase, then he would explain it, but it didn't take you out of the story. It wasn't like the narrator was saying, and here's a definition for that word. It was very much he was defining it within it, and often as well the characters would actually define it. So Klaus reads a lot, and he obviously knows a lot of words even for his age, despite the fact he's 12. So often the adults would say a word and then say, and this word means blah blah blah, and then Klaus would interrupt and be like, I know what that means. So it was really great because it obviously didn't interrupt the story, it felt very natural, but at the same time the readers get to learn new words, which is really fantastic. So yeah, I really enjoyed these. I'm going to see if my library has the rest of them. So obviously this is number 1 to 3, and I think there are 13 in total. And I know that my library has 4, 5, 6, 7 and 9, but I'm not sure about the rest of them, whether they're out on loan. So yeah, I can at least get 4, 5, 6, do the next 3, and then maybe have a look from there. I know they'll probably be in charity shops and things, and as much as I do think it would be nice to own these, I think as someone who buys way too many books, I have come to realise it's chances like this I need to tell myself, you don't need to own these books. Using your library is a great way to support the library, and it also means you're not overrunning your house with more books. Because the thing is, I'll probably read these now and then won't read them again for a long time. So yeah, I don't need to own copies. So hopefully my library will have all of them. If not, I'm sure I can find them in some other way. And yeah, so far middle grade May is going really well, and stay tuned to see what I read next. Hello, it is the 14th of May. I'm not even sure if I've been saying the dates, but Here we go, it is now the 14th of May. So we're like almost halfway through May, and I have finished this morning Bitter by Akwaeke Emezi. So this is the prequel to Pet, which I read I think 2 years ago, and to be honest, if you're thinking of rereading Bitter, having read Pet, I would recommend rereading Pet if you read it a long time ago, because there were definitely moments where I think I missed certain things or the significance of certain moments because I didn't really remember all the details of Pet. Although, having said that, if you don't have time to read Pet or you don't want to reread Pet, you really don't need to. You can, you know, gauge enough from the storyline of Bitter. So, like I said, it's the prequel. Pet is set in a utopian world, and so Bitter basically explores how that utopian world came about and what happened prior to that. So it's really interesting. Pet is obviously a really great exploration of things like identity. It's got great representation, and Bitter's no different. The only thing I would say, obviously this is my middle grade May video, but I don't actually think this is middle grade. Pet definitely felt middle grade. Bitter feels a little bit darker, and also most of the children in it are older, so they're kind of like 16, 17 maybe, so definitely young adult rather than middle grade, but I'm going to include it in this video anyway, because yeah, it was really fantastic. And I think, like I've kind of been saying through a lot of these clips, middle grade books are really great at kind of teaching lessons and instilling in the reader some kind of sense of, yeah, lesson or moral maybe, and I really loved how Akwaeke Emezi did that in Bitter. There was really great moments about disability, for example, or identity and sexuality, and I thought they were done so well. And what's really great is that the storyline isn't even to do with that. The storyline is to do with these monsters, and okay, that is kind of a metaphor in itself, and there's a lot to unpack with that, but at the same time I just loved all these quiet moments that weren't even necessarily focused on. It was just like a moment in a book that was maybe 1 or 2 pages long, and then we moved on. But as a reader, I feel like you can gain so much from that, and especially if you're a young reader and you're impressionable, I think that it's a really brilliant and powerful way for children to kind of learn how to be accepting of other people who aren't the same as them, or understanding things about themselves and their own body that they might be struggling with. And yeah, that was what I really loved about it. So yeah, probably 5 stars from me. Because I read Pet quite a long time ago, I'm not sure whether I like it any more or less. They're probably the same, to be honest. I really, like I said, I really loved the stories. I really loved the idea. It's such a unique premise as well, and I don't like fantasy. So to say that I'm giving a fantasy book a 5-star rating is, I think that says it all, really. It's definitely light fantasy if you're not into it, so don't worry too much if fantasy is not your thing as well. So yeah, and next up I will be reading the Apple Tart of Hope, which is, I think, my final book. Oh no, I apologise, it's not my final book. I have 2 more left from the library, but I'll be reading this one next, and then hopefully can squeeze that one in. But very excitingly, in the post today I received this, which is a middle grade book, and it's from my friend Jazz from Travels in Fiction. It was my birthday last week, and she sent me this in the post with a little note on it that said, for my middle grade May, because I told her that I was filming this video. She read this a few months ago, and she absolutely adored it. I'll link her video. She did a whole video where she reviewed it, so I'll link it here so you can see that or watch that. And yeah, I hope I love it as much as her, but even more than that, I just like the idea that I can read it and discuss it with her, because I do like talking to her about books. So yeah, they'll probably be my next 2, and then fingers crossed I'll also have time to read Out of the Blue, because that's the final one from the library, and that'll probably be all the middle grade books I read this month, but we will see. Continue with me on this journey, and yeah, hope you've been enjoying. Hello everyone, Draco is in the background here. If you hear him drinking from the cup, then apologies, but he really likes drinking from that cup. I'm here to update you because I have finished The Apple Tart of Hope by Sarah Moore Fitzgerald. So this is set in Ireland, and it's about a boy who goes missing called Oscar, and he is presumed dead, and it looks like he's committed suicide, but his best friend, who recently moved to New Zealand and has come back to Ireland after hearing the news, and his brother Stephen, I think his name was, basically adamant that he can't be dead. So it's all about looking into his disappearance and working out what actually happened. I have to admit, for a middle grade book, I thought it actually got really dark in places, but because it was middle grade, everything, despite the fact it was dark, had quite a hopeful outlook, and the outcome, obviously at the end, was very hopeful and had more joy than sorrow for sure. But yeah, it was surprisingly dark, and I've been saying this entire video, I think middle grade books are really, really good at dealing with big, dark, important themes. However, I normally read them and they feel quite light, but this actually, yeah, did feel quite heavy, which I don't think was a bad thing at all. And I think talking about mental health, it is really important. And so this book does a very good job at really hitting that head on. It doesn't shy away from the fact that these things do actually happen and that suicide is a very real thing, even for young teenagers. So I think it was really good for that. But yeah, overall I did really enjoy it. It was really... wrong way around. It was really fun, and yeah, like I said, dark but overall quite hopeful, and yeah, I would really recommend it if you are looking for a middle grade read. So almost finished with my middle grade reads. I've got a couple left, and I'll keep you posted with how they go. So it is now the last day of May, the 31st, and I haven't filmed a video in this vlog for a while. As you can probably hear from my voice, I've been very ill, the last book I read, I think, was Bitter, and then I started Out of the Blue, which I've actually not finished yet, and to be honest, I've kind of realised isn't middle grade, it's more YA. So that's interesting. So at the same time, I've also picked up Anna on the Edge, which was from my friend Jazz from Travels and Fiction. She gave me this for my birthday this month, so I was going to try and squeeze it in as part of my middle grade May. It is about an ice skater or figure skater called Anna, and basically explores a lot about identity, and so far it's really, really brilliant, so I will keep you posted with my thoughts on this. Hello everyone, I started this video on the floor of my book room, so I thought I would finish it here. Come full circle. So I have now finished Anna on the Edge, and this was really brilliant. I'll kind of give you a little bit of a recap of the ones I have read throughout this vlog, but this is definitely one of my favourites. So this was gifted to me by my best friend Jazz, thank you Jazz, for my birthday, because she knew I was doing a middle grade month. So yeah, she gave this to me a couple of weeks ago, and I've managed to squeeze it in literally in the last couple of days of the month. So yeah, that was really great. She loved this book when she read it, so I was excited to read it too. So I can't remember what I said in my little film. As you can probably still hear, I am quite ill, so everything's a bit of a haze the last couple of weeks. I'll just recap again. So it's about 12-year-old Anna, who's a figure skater, and she's basically coming to terms with her identity and realising that she might be non-binary. And yeah, it was a really brilliant book. I think I'm going to start off with one negative before I move on to the positives. It's really not a massive negative, I'm just splitting hairs, but you know, being the thorough reviewer that I am, I like to point out everything, and that was just that I feel the dialogue was a little bit mature. Obviously, having read a lot of middle grade books this month, I was very used to like a middle grade tone, a middle grade feel, and I do think this felt more YA, even though the protagonist was 12. I do not think that matters in the slightest. It shouldn't stop you reading this book, and I don't think it's going to make anyone hate the book either. It's just an observation. But that was literally my only negative, so yay. Otherwise, I thought it was a really brilliant book. Obviously, it discusses a lot about identity and being non-binary, and I do think that it's a great exploration of that. I myself am not in a position to be an authority on it at all. I'm very much learning, and ways I like to learn about these things is definitely reading books like this, and I do think it was brilliant for that. What I really liked about it, I think there were two things I really liked about it. Firstly, how Anna's identity is never cut and dry. AJ Sass does a really great job of basically explaining how, or you know, not actually explaining, of showing how our identity can change and how we can label ourselves differently, and how we can have moments of realization where, you know, we want to label ourselves in one way but actually maybe then might change our mind. I think it was really great as well because obviously Anna's only 12, so there was a lot that she was still learning. She meets a boy called Hayden who is trans, and again that meant this book had really great representation of a trans protagonist as well, and again just became this really brilliant way of spotlighting to readers people with non-binary and trans identities. So yeah, that was definitely one of the biggest things I loved about it. The other thing I loved about it was the figure skating. I really like books that do like a proper deep dive into like a hobby or a profession or a sport, especially something that I have no previous knowledge of, and I know nothing about figure skating. So I really loved that because clearly the author AJ Sass was also a figure skater, so they really know what they're talking about, which means that you can
get this really great in-depth understanding of what it's like to be a figure skater, which I really loved. The only other one that comes to mind for that is like Bear Town with ice hockey. I only think I'm thinking that because also that's obviously also ice. I'm sure there are loads of examples, but yeah, I also really loved it for that. So yes, I would definitely recommend this one. So just to recap, I have now given quite a few of the books back to the library, so yeah, I can't recap all of them physically, but yeah, I read the first 3 in the series of Unfortunate Events series. Third one I gave back to the library. They were brilliant, loved them, will definitely continue reading the rest of the series. Then Out of the Blue, which I don't actually think I finished giving you a summary of, and to be honest, I don't think this is actually middle grade. The protagonist, Jaya, I think her name is, yeah, is I think about like 16, so it's not middle grade. Ignore everything I said about that book. It was an okay book. It was 3 stars. So, you know, I don't really need to talk much about it anyway. Obviously, Honor on the Edge, and then I also read The Apple Tart of Hope, which I'll put here, and The Weight of Water, which I'll also put here. So yeah, it's been a really great month. I loved reading some more middle grade. I'm definitely going to continue reading middle grade, and I think my 2 favourites of the month were Honor on the Edge and also The Apple Tart of Hope. So if you want to read more middle grade, if you want to get a recommendation, then I would recommend one of these. And yes, and then I was going to bring you on to next month. So as mentioned, I'm going to continue with the series of Unfortunate Events series. I've got the next 3 out of the library. So number 4 is The Miserable Mill. Number 5 is The Austere Academy. And number 6 is the oh my god, that font. The Ersatz Elevator. So fingers crossed they are as good as the first 3. I'm excited to continue. And then I'm also going to read The Murderer's Ape by Jacob Wegelus. This is a translation from Swedish, I think. Hang on. Is it Swedish? Yes, it is Swedish. Translated by Peter Graves. And yeah, it's basically about a man, I think, who is accused of murder and put in prison, and his monkey friend who tries to get him out. I think that's what it is. But I will give you a proper synopsis at some point when I've actually read it and know what the book's about. So yeah, this has been a really great month for me. I've really enjoyed myself, and if you have any more middle grade recommendations, please drop them in the comments, because I'm excited to find more reads and more middle grade books to love. And I hope you've enjoyed this little vlog / video, and I'll try and do some more updates of the middle grade books I've been reading, so let me know if that's something that you want to see. Otherwise, please like this video and please subscribe to my channel, and I will see you next time. Bye!